somewhere over the rainbow.
I have a very distinguished gentleman today. Usually we have women. We're on the channel Women Helping Women Soar. But this gentleman, Robert Stephson's heart is so attuned to the vibration of this feminine essence that we are all seeking, and we have had a drought on this earth for quite some time. His message is otherworldly. He's going to tell you his path. It's quite dramatic. But to prepare, because I do work with vibration, I have this beautiful bedside harp that I worked with for years with people who are going from their earthly body into the other realms. They say that music is the only thing that is unchanged from this realm to heaven. So if you want to access that bridge and remove human fear, just move into the music. So Robert had an experience in his life, a break in his human, heavy, dense, solid container, so that he could hear the music of heaven and speak it and write a book about it. So I welcome my dear friend Robert Stephson here to the set tonight. And it's new for you being on a TV show, isn't it?
Yes, I'm a private person, and I don't do workshops. I don't have a public face, and I published a book in Jan. I just emailed Jan, and 6 days ago she said, do you want to come on TV and appear? So here I am.
Because in a sense, it's kind of my fault. We'll talk in a few minutes about this break from the horrific density of the human experience into this other realm. But he's been following his path and intuition, and he came to the Buddha Gallery one day and looked in the window,
right.
And you told me that story.
Yeah, that's
You were completely flattened, and there was something about the vibration, and I said, release your voice.
Yes, I saw the poster for Jan, and it said, release your voice for spiritual authority or something. I thought, that's a pretty strange niche. Whoever heard of such a thing as that? But it said women and women and women, and I said, oh no. So I went home right away. This was a Saturday, and I wrote her an email, and I said, I'm not a woman, can I come? And she said, yes. And so I came, and this was your first event here. And I was the only one who showed up, except for a friend. And Jan did some of her musical, that's not even the wrong word, sound work. And I had a tremendous healing, and so I have a tremendous respect for what Jan does. And even when she was singing here, I just keep getting these like energy rushes from what she does.
And now your voice is free.
Yeah, and so to be speaking now, it's all come full circle.
To 140 countries.
Here I am speaking in public after coming here to say, I can't squeak.
And why we do this show is to show that people who have stuck, I call them manhole covers, big, heavy things here, are being shamed, told, who are you to speak up? Children should be seen and not heard. What was your story? What dampened you down?
Well, first I want to say the voice, for me, is kind of the last frontier in a certain way, because before, throughout my life, I had ordinary things on the outside and bad things on the inside. Mm-hmm. I abused drugs when I was a teen. In my 20s, watch the camera, in my 20s I had an eating disorder. In my 30s I had chronic fatigue. In my 40s I had cancer. And then in my 50s I had a total breakdown, complete total breakdown, where I woke up one night and I couldn't move my arms and legs. And then I also had then what they call spiritual emergency, which is kind of a code word for what is also known in some circles as Kundalini emergency. And for about 3 months I was really on the high seas. I was having psychic experiences that I didn't understand. I was having healing consciousness that could see into people's bodies. I was having twitches, you might even call it, it's more than twitches, but basically my body was shaking for hours on end every day. And it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. But within that, all the stuff that had contributed to my having all those problems my entire life, it's like each person has like a whole Christmas tree of bad stuff lighting them up in a way. And these things were being pulled out of me one after another. Some of it was via nightmares, some of it was via energy experiences. But the biggest thing I came to was that I didn't believe in God. And I had been a spiritual character all my life, but there was some kind of a plate, like a manhole cover, to use
A container to be
over
shattered.
that idea. And at one point I was in the hospital and I went out of my body and I could see the other people. I could see them working on me. I was dying and they were working on my chest. They have all this electronic stuff. And I was very indifferent about my own body and my own life and death and the other people's, because I had stepped out. And it was like, wow, so this is it. When I was released from the hospital, I was waiting for a prescription in Walgreens, and I stepped out in Walgreens. I was like, wow, that was in Marysville. Wow, I stepped out
What
here.
a trip.
Yeah, and so, but when I came home, I had this device for my heart, I had all these pills, and I said, this is a soul experience, this is not medical, even though it was obviously highly medical. So I threw away the heart device they gave me, I flushed away the pills, I threw away the doctor's appointments, and I just said, okay, I'm an invalid, I don't know where this is going, but I had been studying for a year before that. I mean really studying, like Christian Science and Joel Goldsmith, and I don't want to go into who they are, but basically it's a whole idea of spiritual healing, which has been kind of cresting in this century particularly since Mary Baker Eddy in the 1800s. And basically I put all my eggs in the basket of God rather than material medicine. And I went through these terrible, terrible experiences, and then one day I hit a dead end, and then it was like dying, but I died. It wasn't like my body died, but I know that whoever I was died. And then I realized that I never believed in God. Strange
You're
to say.
separate.
I was crying. I
Separate.
remember I threw myself on a bed and I said, no one ever told me. No one ever told me. But of course, I've been reading Buddhism and I've been a spiritual student all my adult life, but I didn't believe any of it in here. And then it started to move. It was like discovering something, and I discovered that it was like a secret world in the heart. And I discovered that, I'll say it, most people don't know it exists. And when I met Jan, there was that connection with Divine Feminine and Mary. And it was strange, because I'm a man, and it was like, well, why is all this happening to me? And I also saw that many women, in this culture particularly, we have a masculine culture, so women become masculine. And so it just went on and on and on. It took me a very long time to integrate after I kind of came back and could go back to work and be normal again, because I was really like, it was like Humpty Dumpty. But I learned that to appreciate the like an archaeology of what's underneath this paved over personality that most people are fronting. And and I'm still fronting certain things, I'm sure, but the interesting thing is that all of these things can come out. I brought a prop today. One morning, in that time between when you're sleeping and waking up, sometimes the messages can come through.
In between worlds.
And this one morning I was waking up, and this, you can zoom in on this, and the words came to me. I'm shaking. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. It says, "A covenant of glory," and those are the Michelangelo paintings. And
Do you think that's man touching source, going across that bridge of separation?
exactly. But we had all this stuff is around us, but until we touch the living heart of it, we're aspiring and we're wanting and we're reading and we're thinking and we're talking. But the touching of it is, I don't know when I got to it. So I'm still digesting, actually. Maybe
You're still integrating.
Still integrating.
It's lonely, though. Once you've gone into the heavenly realms and you bring back the vibration here, there's not too many people to talk to.
No,
about
I hate to
that.
say that.
Yeah.
And that's where you and I connected.
Yeah.
Because it's hidden.
It's a small group of awakening people to the pristine truth. And that's why we're doing the TV show, because I know there's a lot of people out there thinking they're going crazy. I thought I was going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
My brothers and sisters say, we're not sure what you're doing, but don't get so far ahead of us that we can't see you. And you're having much more fun than we're having, they would say. But it's freaky to suddenly shatter everything that you thought about yourself. Your whole life falls away because it really doesn't have the same meaning.
There was one interesting part, which is I brought the book that I wrote, which is, it looks a little strange to me now that I even wrote it, but the linchpin of the personality that I had was, and many people have this, the buzzword now is low self-esteem. Okay, so what does low self-esteem mean? It means you feel like you're a worm, not a person.
You didn't love yourself.
So anyway, we'll talk about moving from worm to person when we come back.
Excellent. And what all came out of this, his greatest gift for mankind. And this whole thing about not loving ourselves is part of the separation that society has perpetuated, and authorities and even religion. So you are here to break through that. You're an avatar
Even religion,
of spirituality. Robert Stephson here on our show. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So we were talking to Robert Stephson here, and he is based in literature, has been a professor at a university in Rome, and it's just amazing the people that come across my path. And I do feel that there is an instant resonance when I meet people who are here as transformational agents to change the earth, to upgrade the frequency of earth, and I feel you very powerfully hold this node. I feel like this show is like telephone operator duty, where we can connect the people that need to hear your message. They may be having a nervous breakdown right now, just as you shattered your container like Humpty Dumpty, and they're looking at him saying, look at him sitting there, so authentic, honest, his eyes are glowing. You're giving them hope. You're giving them hope. And then now, beyond hope, you're giving them this project, tell them the name of your website.
Let me just jump in quick though, because I want to pick up the idea
of
hope, because that ties into the project. When I was at the bottom, when anyone is at the bottom, they need something to reach for, because otherwise you just feel like it goes forever. And I was quite surprised when I was at the bottom that I was reaching for Jesus, because I was not raised a Christian. I've been in a church about 5 times in my life, And yet, when I was at the bottom, this whole thing for Jesus started coming up, and Christianity, and it was like I got obsessed. I really did. And then it got emotional, and then I was like going to church parking lots and crying. I was going in these Christian bookstores, and you have all these cheap knickknacks, and I was like weeping.
You'd fall apart at a little plastic Jesus.
Yes, I was, and it was like, well,
why do you think? Why?
I know why, and that's the thing I want to say is that I started out, we come into this life with things that we don't know, and then we pick up things in this life that we don't know, and then if we're empathic, we're kind of like a dartboard for things, so we pick up more things. The linchpin, after I had gotten back on my feet, I still hadn't gotten to the linchpin of my personality, and the linchpin lay in a past life, which I didn't know about. And I was on the internet kind of trolling around, and I found this healer who lives in Canada. And I said, she's got it. She knows. And she said, what she said, I hit the bullseye every time. That was her line. So I had to get a passport. I got a passport, and I drove to Canada. I made an appointment. I drove to Canada, and I walked around her high-rise apartment for a whole day, like waiting. I was overwrought. And until that point, I was drinking heavily. I was, drinking myself under the bushes outside, the kind of bars that have martini glasses, I was crying 2 and 3 times a day. And not just crying like, boo-hoo, but like utterly distraught. And I could not figure it out.
Now, what drew you to her? Your intuition?
Intuition, like the internet.
That's feminine.
It was like,
you say yes.
I saw her, and it's like, the internet is funny. When you get to things that are for you, it's like...
narrows in and...
the room starts moving. So, but long story short, because I would like to read a little bit, is that she told me that I had come into this life determined to abase myself because I had been a very powerful Catholic priest, and I had abused a person who then became a very dear person to me in this life and who abused me. So it was like tit for tat. And she said, you have to pay every last farthing in the flesh. And that was the linchpin, and then things started getting seriously better. So, but that led to a book. While I was in that period, in the throes of that period, I wrote this book, which is called What Jesus Was Like, by One Who Knew Him. And what it is, it's like a fifth gospel, basically. And so it's like, if you read any one gospel, you kind of get a whole spiritual teaching, and this is my digestion of my experience. And I'd like to just launch into it to see if we can get a section in.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to skip the one about women, unfortunately, because if I have to choose one, I want to choose this one.
We'll make sure there's time for 2.
Okay. This is the last segment where Jesus first appears to the disciples who are hiding behind closed doors after the resurrection because they're afraid, and the law's going to come down on us, whatever. So okay, so here it is. There's a whole prelude, but we don't have all the time in the world. So
there's extra time for you and Jesus, just so you know.
Okay.
We'll go over.
We'll do the women too. Jesus stood before us thus for long moments. Then he raised his right hand and showed its palm to us in blessing. The same way he had blessed us often, and blessed the throng often, and blessed the cities and towns in which he walked, and the rivers and mountains, and all things he regarded. And none of us had aught to say. He bid us join him at table, and bid us bring broiled fish that he ate with us. All this time, without words. Then he bid a honeycomb be brought to him, and he took that honeycomb that was drenched in amber fluid, and took it with him to the shuttered window. And he opened those shutters, and the sun poured through, and that honeycomb gleamed then with golden splendor. Then he brake that honeycomb into 11 pieces and beckoned us and gave a piece into each one's mouth from his hand. And none yet spake a word. In that loft by the sun, now made brilliant, he then said this, "My dearest, dear friends, peace be upon ye. How it gladdens me to be with ye." And then he spake again, "For nigh 1,000 days, friends, we lived together, each by the other's side. In those days ye heard much from my lips, many things, and ye pondered those things much within you. Today, this day, is the advent of thy understanding of what ye have heard. From this day hence ye shall no more ponder what I say, but shall know it. And this knowing shall speak to thee, without words, as thy blood and bones speak. But this knowing shall speak to thee not of thy body, but of heaven within thee. Ye have seen my deeds, and have wondered whither they come. Ye sense in me a light that ye adore, but that ye understand not. But I have told ye often, it is the light of the world, that was bred in thee too, by our common Father. That light shall be magnified in ye now, and shall sanctify thy soul, if ye will but watch in the way I have taught ye. Ye must watch for the Lord now. Listen for the Lord now. Thy mind ever pitch to the singleness of the light within ye. For that light hath power to burn off the dross in ye, that ye may know me truly, as ye so dearly wish. This light is the comforter that I shall send thee. It shall whisper to ye the secret that thy priests tell ye not, because they know it not, that God lives as thee, within thee, and is thee. I send the Comforter so that all can know me. And so I say unto thee, and unto all, for all time, trust in me, inside of thee. Love me, inside of thee. I have hidden nothing from thee. The spirit and the power I now show ye seems a marvel, but it is the fruit of all else I have taught ye. It is the fruit of love. It is the fruit of forbearance, the fruit of suffering borne, the fruit of wisdom pondered, the fruit of thy inward magnification, the fruit of thy faith, the fruit of a patience greater than that of any rock or star. It is celestial fruit, beyond all earthly dreams. Then he went to that window, which was now brilliant with light, and he shuttered it up again. And the room was cast sudden into blackness. And when the lamps were again lit, he was gone.
Very rich. I was thinking it was like a buffet. Each word is a beautiful food with nourishment, and your reading was so devotional. And I was bringing a thought, because people around the world of different religions, when you had your awakening, I always see the ladder to source is many faces. Mm-hmm. Buddha, Allah, Jesus. Why do you think it was Jesus that came to you?
I think for me it was because of that
the
past
other
life thing that I described.
Association,
but there was also a shamanic dimension to it, which I also had in the past. But apparently in the past, my experience with Native America didn't leave me traumatized the way my past with Catholicism did.
They say we're in school here, and we're good in one life and not so good in the next life, and that truly we eventually, probably in this lifetime, in this earth, are going to mitigate it all, come out of duality, because of people like you who had the courage to go across to both sides and bring back this illuminating language through your heart.
Thank you.
You're doing a beautiful job. So tell people
Okay.
how they can find your.
Yes.
I had all these beautiful things I was going to read, but forget it. You're reading. I was going to talk about you, but.
The book has. I have a website in which I do 3 readings on video, and then several passages you can read with your eyes, and you can push a button and buy it on Amazon. And the website is very easy to remember. WhatJesusWasLike.com. Sounds funny to say that with the .com at the end. WhatJesusWasLike.com. And when you push the buttons, you'll see a other thing is, what was Jesus like? What was Jesus like? What was Jesus? Mine is what Jesus was like.
It makes me think of operator information. Give me Jesus on the line, because you knew him.
Yeah,
You really did know him. Well, I don't know why, but I think just to finish this out, would you just strum this a little bit
Me?
for us? Yes, I love surprises.
Yeah.
No, anybody can play it. I've played in nursing homes, and the aged play it.
Music, me?
It's pentatonic. You've been to heaven and back. I want to hear how an angel plays it. Just strum. See? Robert Stephson here in the flesh. Somebody who, again, is mitigated through life's stuff, broke that container, leached out all of his yuck, and now was an empty vessel for the divine.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for coming on the show today. And I would say, as your teacher in the voice department, big check of A+ graduated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wrote you the mama hen,
The mama hen.
and the chick who lays the sound egg.
Yeah. In your book? On the
email I wrote.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Robert, for
Thank you
coming
so
on
much.
today. Just always lovely to talk with you or be in your presence. So
Yeah, we'll get together.
more and more. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us today. This programming is for you to grow and be inspired. And before we say goodbye today, I'd like to tell you who is joining us next week.